Bowl first, Jarrod Kimber, 1-run victory. I suppose that makes it feel slightly closer than it was, but it was off the last ball, wasn't it? But either way, it was an exciting game of the IPL. And about at this part of the season, you either don't want the IPL to go ahead at all because of the whole pandemic thing, which is very fair, or you're in the boring middle stages of the IPL where you're a little bit like, unless it's a close game, I don't care. Or you're just one of those people who ends up on my website every day anyway because you love this game and everything about it. So I think I'm making this video for the bottom two groups, probably not the pandemic group. That's fair. So let's talk about death bowling, because this game was very death bowlery. I don't know what that means. I mean, most games are death bowlery, but we're going to have a look at something very specific here, or a couple of things very specific. Let's start with Pant, who took a huge chance when he decided to keep it over a spin back towards the end. He had one over of Amit Mishra, and then he decided that the pitch wasn't helping spinners that much, and so he didn't want to use Amit Mishra in that period. That suddenly changed his whole death bowling plan. Let's just have a look at a couple of other bowlers as well here. So Ishan Sharma comes into the side. He's clearly being used to target the power play, and he does that very, very well. He then comes on for the 14th over, and it goes for 11. His first 3 overs went for 15 combined. I think that's very fair for a power play specialist bowler, which is what he seemed to be in the side for. Akshar Patel came on for the 15th over. He went for 10 runs and he took a wicket. It's probably just slightly a bit higher than they want for that 15th over, but overall, they would be pretty happy with what happened there. Clearly, Avesh Khan was being held for the death. His first over went for 4 runs and his next over went for 9. That's, in this game, that is incredible death bowling. That's probably the best sort of 2-over death bowling that we had. And to get that from a young local bowler as well, I think that's an absolute bonus at the death. Rabada bowled the 16th and the 18th over. I think the 16th was probably about trying to take the wicket of De Villiers, and maybe even when he came back on the 18th. If the ball wasn't spinning for Akshar in the 15th over, then the 16th or 17th over really probably had to be Marcus Stoinis. They didn't go for that. They went for Rabada because they really wanted to get De Villiers out. If Stoinis had bowled the 16th over, then De Villiers wouldn't have been able to swing quite with the same freedom. So that would have actually changed the whole setup there a little bit. But that's not to say that it still wouldn't have gone for a lot of runs. Instead, Stoinis ends up bowling the 20th over. You quite often use part-timers at the end of a chase when you're trying to take wickets. You don't do it as much in the first innings because you don't want to give the other team basically 6 free swings at the ball, well 7 because there was a wide. The over went for 23 runs. That includes that wide and also includes a ball where De Villiers left it because he thought it was going to be a wide, and it wasn't. So the real mistake here is having Akshar and Amit Mishra both having 1 over left when it came into the death. I can't believe that was the plan. That has to be a miscalculation. But here's the thing, over the last 6 overs of this innings, RCB actually scored at less than 2 runs a ball with AB De Villiers at the crease and a part-timer bowling to him. It was clearly a mistake, but I think, all things considered, that could have gone a lot worse. With just AB De Villiers at the crease, you would expect maybe 80 runs, and with a part-timer factor in, maybe 85 or even 90. It's worth just quickly talking about the other batters involved here. Washington Sundar was batting a lot at the death when they did have probably other guys who could have hit the ball a little bit harder coming in. He's obviously a better batter than some of those other players, but he hasn't been in great form. He's sort of been thrown around the innings in all sorts of different roles, and none of them have worked for him yet. He probably soaked up a few more extra balls than RCB would have liked. When Delhi came out to bat, Pant weirdly was the one who soaked up a lot of balls. He just was struggling with his timing. I think he really wanted to take the game deep, but in doing so, he sort of lost a little bit of his ability to power hit for a while there. And we've talked about AB De Villiers, so let's talk about Shimron Hepmeier. I don't know what Delhi have been doing with Hepmeier so far. They seem to just be pushing him further and further down the order and hiding him in dark spaces and hoping he'll come good. It was more of a in case of emergency innings of him today. They pushed him so far down the order, but he showed what an incredible striker of the ball he is. He's one of my favorite cricketers in the world just because of the way that he clears the front leg and just goes for it at a certain point. And there's a lot of skill involved with what he does, but there's also just a lot of him trying to hit the ball really hard. I like a good combination of skill and trying to hit the ball really hard. So let's look at the RCB bowlers at the death. They had bowled out their spinners. Weirdly enough, Chahal only bowled 2 overs despite the fact he went for 10, but that was more of a match-up thing, as he bowled when there was a right-hander at the crease, and when the 2 left-handers came, they went for Washington Sundar. So now we know the only way they're going to bowl Washington Sundar out is if the pitch is absolutely ragging or there's left-handers, but that's what they're doing. So Sundar bowled their last over spin, which was the 14th. So the entire death was seam bowling, and they went with their 3 most obvious bowlers. Siraj, Jameson, and Harshal Patel. Harshal went for 21 runs in his 2 overs. I think that's around par for this game, and also probably around par for him. I know he's been a lot more dramatic and taking wickets and everything, but realistically, I don't think we can consistently assume he's going to have low-scoring death overs. He's going to go for runs at times. He bowled some good Yorkers and a couple of full tosses he got away with. All in all, it wasn't the worst death bowling. Mohammad Siraj bowled the 15th over to Hepmeier. He just lost his length a couple of times there. And at one stage he bowled a slower ball, which Hepmeier picked and waited for. Let's talk about Kyle Jameson. I've talked a lot about Kyle Jameson. He's been very expensive in this tournament so far. He's going at over 9 runs and over. His first 3 overs here were not like that at all. He was going very, very well. So let's talk about that 3rd over. It's the 16th over of the game, and his first ball was a high full toss. We don't know how high it was. The umpire didn't call it on the field. May have been a no ball if they looked at it off the field, but Hepmeier hit it straight up in the air and it should have been caught. Realistically, it should have been 6 before it should have been caught, but you get my drift. His 4th ball was a full toss as well, and I think so was his 5th, but they just didn't hit them. So Jameson bowled 3 full tosses in that over and they went for 5 runs. Good job if you can get it. Jameson's next over had a bunch of full tosses, also a length ball. It's just that Hepmeier hit all of these, and he hit 3 sixes, and the over went for 21. I'm not sure it was that much worse than the over before. If at all, really. This all meant that Siraj had to defend 14 runs. So this all brings us to the last over. Rcb Pant is on strike, there's a knee-high full toss, and Rcb Pant flicks it beautifully, except directly to a fielder. They only get 1. Next ball's a really good Yorker to Hepmeier. The following ball, it could go either way. I think some people would call it a slot ball that he got lucky with. Other people have called it a Yorker. It's up to you, but he didn't get a run off that. The next ball is a ball on the leg stump with fielders up on the leg side that is whipped out to mid-wicket when realistically there was plenty of other gaps for it to be hit. And Rcb Pant looked furious at himself. The 5th ball is another full toss. If the first ball had been hit for 6 like it probably should have been, and this ball had been hit for 4 like it was, anything could have happened in this over. The last ball is a wide Yorker, which Rcb Pant sort of just gets to on the full and slices away for 4. They win by 1 run. But I hope what all this shows you is just kind of how random and lucky all this sort of thing can be. A lot of people are going to be looking back at the Marcus Stoinis over and telling us that that is the difference between these two teams. And yet their overall death did not go for as much. Even with that error, the RCB specialist death bowlers went for more runs and probably bowled more poor balls than the Delhi specialist death bowlers did. AB de Villiers had to bat with Washington Sundar, who's massively out of form. Shimron Hepmeier had to bat with Rcb Pant, who's an incredible player. Marcus Stoinis got stuck against AB de Villiers. Kyle Jameson almost got a wicket with a full toss to Hepmeier that probably would have won the game right then and there. When it comes down to it, for all the talk of Delhi getting their death bowling wrong with Marcus Stoinis or RCB bowling too many full tosses, you can kind of see just how many mistakes teams are making all the time. This is like a really, really constant thing. Mishit full tosses, bowled full tosses, balls down the leg side that should be dispatched. There was fielding errors. Daniel Sams coughed one up right on the boundary that was easy. These sorts of things just happen all the time in T20 cricket. There is no perfect way of playing this game. No one can land Yorkers every ball. Lasith Malinga bowled a lot of full tosses in his career. No one hits sixes from all the bad balls. Even Chris Gale misses full tosses and sometimes is dismissed by them. There's just so much randomness around it. We generally look back and we blame one thing. But I think what I've tried to explain here is just how many things go right, go wrong, go right, go wrong, go right, go wrong, just in 2 death phases. Imagine if we'd done the exact same thing but the whole game. Anyway, wasn't it great that this game came down to the last ball and then I ruined it for you by taking you through it ball by ball? It's kind of what I do. See you tomorrow.